recent times, indie web animations have taken the internet by storm. Projects from not only smaller creators, but concepts from smaller creators picked up by larger organizations are also quite prevalent in our online sphere as of recent. These independently animated web series are a recent phenomena over the last decade, specifically on YouTube. While some have been picked up by large organizations and made into actual full-on TV series streamed on premier services used by millions worldwide, most don't reach that level of prosperity and success. Some just stick to YouTube and provide their viewership with new episodes every couple of months, give or take. These indie web animations are arguably the backbone of the algorithm, coming out every few months to stir discussion on the matter and draw more attention to their animations, let alone the site in general. Has been Hotel the most popular cartoon in the last decade? It is without a doubt one of the most popular cartoons in a decade, if not the #1 spot, and pretending it isn't is either a huge cope or ignorance? Bro, what? However, shockingly, a lot of creators, and subsequently their series, suffer a vast downfall based off the creators' actions themselves, or those in association in the creation of their web series. It's shameful, frankly, how their darkness and past cannot be silenced underneath their great success, as most of the time, others only have to shallowly dig into a creator's past to impact their careers on a major scale. When this event occurs, it allows those who personally dislike the creator, or the show, or both, to come out of the woodwork and rag on these creators for their past actions or general deplorability. However, when a situation's water is muddied to the degree of some confusion and vagueness, it is a difficult endeavor to conclude, as the non-stop dogpiling from Twitter users are the majority, while those questioning the allegations often fall deep in their replies. So what happens when an allegation of grooming turns out to be a bit less conclusive than originally imagined, the accused being someone in very close proximity with possibly the most popular indie YouTube web series of the past half a year or so? This is the story of the digital circus predator. The concept of indie web series has been realized in more recent times, arguably one of the most successful being that of the amazing Digital Circus. Conceptualized and directed by artist Gooseworks, Gooseworks has started their internet presence in the early 2010s, like most other artists at the time on DeviantArt. Their art was unique in a sense, vibrant, colorful, and quirky character designs for lack of a better term. Their art stuck out like a sore thumb amidst a lot of repetition in the art community at that time. They brought their talents to YouTube with animations like Little Runmo, Elaine the Bounty Hunter, Ghost of the Year, and more. Following the release of Little Runmo, Gooseworks upscaled to a larger production. After being contacted by Glitch Productions, an Australian studio known for producing digital content and web series, they pitched 3 different concepts before settling on The Amazing Digital Circus, a series inspired by the likes of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. The Digital Circus was exposed to widespread acclaim almost instantaneously, a series loved by many within mere days of its releasing. In the casting for the series, many moreover loosely popular voice actors were chosen, one of which, the voice actor of Kinger, being that of voice actor Sean Chiplock. Sean Chiplock was born on the 21st of June 1990 in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Sean attended Western Michigan before moving to Los Angeles to pursue a voice acting career. Sean has a large portfolio of different characters he has voiced. Subaru from ReZero, Mista from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Draken from Tokyo Revengers, Torgrim from Vinland Saga, Diluc from Genshin Impact, Danganronpa characters, and finally Kinger, along with many others I can mention, but I think you get the point. With such a vast portfolio of voice acting, the first notorious gigs are a chain reaction and will subsequently garner you not only more roles, however also garner you more attention. Despite this seemingly positive concept, not all publicity is good publicity, and with the rise of individuals taking deeper dives into others' past, it is only a consequence that things rather kept in the dark come to light.
Please, miss, you gotta forgive Fugo! He didn't mean to come off as an overeager horn dog!
Although Sean's current online persona is in line with that of a successful voice actor, things weren't always this way. At one point, he was notorious for something a lot worse. To figure out what this notoriety was for, we must rewind all the way back to 2013. User glitchedpuppet, or PK, purplekelceon, would release a document titled Sonic Mega / Sean Chiplock Logs, detailing their experiences with Sean. They begin the document by accusing Sean of starting a Kiwi Farms thread that they are the main subject of. Said thread is over 1,800 pages long and accuses PK of drawing weird furry fetish art and admitting to having an show fetish and a dog. There is even more, but just keep it in the back of your head for later. Whether these are actually true or not is certainly up for debate. What is not up for debate is how this can be really put onto Sean, as the massive amount of people criticizing this individual cannot all be sent by Sean. The most they have are some quotes from Sean, which are without a doubt malicious and awful, yet doesn't conclude that they made the thread or popularized it. Spreading a rumor that PK had gotten kicked out of their art uni for drawing furry and then got kicked off the furry website they were drawing on for not drawing enough is bad, but certainly incomparable to the other things mentioned in this thread. However, more on this individual later. Logs over IRC between PK and Sean show a lot of malintent and ill will Sean felt towards this individual. Talks of sexist comments and jokes Sean made in their chat, rumors regarding their leave from our school prior to the rumor that Sean had started, and other things that are mildly petty or just chalked up to Sean being an asshole. Sean concludes that PK is a terrible individual. Furthermore, a thread from Sean on Twitter speaks of their banning of those being sexist from their chat as awful behavior. I assisted glitchedpuppet with an April Fool's animation parody in 2013 as a casting assistant / director for the voice actors hired to help, and was a personal witness to their horrendous treatment of the very same people they just enlisted to make personal project a reality. It's not hard to find the original DeviantArt journal. There are things that I did that I'm not proud of, even though they weren't aggressive, snide comments talking incognito to them at an artist alley table since I knew they wouldn't recognize me, but never on the level that was suggested. After I made a very uncalled for and inappropriate comment about their relationship situation later that year out of frustration over what I saw, their response was a mass of their followers directed by them calling my studio clients to try and get me blacklisted. I'm very lucky. To this day, I still occasionally have to deal with the fallout, fabricated accusations made by them used to paint me as a threat, despite them being debunked every time. I regret ever associating with this person. I am grateful to still have my career intact despite doing so. The context of this inappropriate comment Sean would mention would be after PK posted about being cheated on by their husband Marl. Sean and others ridiculed them over a forum thread. At this point, PK started documenting their harassment in the heat of the moment and publicly stating as such, leading others in the thread to be frustrated with them for documenting it. PK was allegedly reached out to someone wanting their address, so someone could come over and cats for ruining Sean's career. The reason I say allegedly is because there is no evidence to prove that it was Sean sending this individual. Finally, we reached the most damning allegations levied at Sean, that he sexually harassed and subsequently a 15-year-old boy. The alleged victim, Casper, made the choice to come out about their experience with Sean after glitchedpuppet or PK or Melanie's document had had a positive reception, especially on their platform. They digressed at their communication with Sean via Fur Affinity in August of 2013 regarding a commission that wasn't fulfilled for Sean from another relatively popular artist at the time had turned dark quickly. After this discussion, Sean would friend request Casper over Skype with this message attached. Is this the part where I awkward type an erotic RP paragraph and said no, asking for free art, or am I doing this furry thing wrong? Pommy. Yeah, I'm pretty shameless, so sometimes when people in Skype chats get too rowdy / RP, especially if they're gay, which I'm not, I like to record snippets just for them to rile them up, either as deep voice dom or the extremely pleasured sub. Oh my god, what? I'm choking. Enjoy. This was after I started teasing one of them half-assedly, and the other was getting mad that I was being detailed with only that person. Am I gonna laugh or cry? It's like a game of Russian roulette. Well, this is probably more just ignorance and stupidity, but as a male trapped in a female's body, are your fantasies still inherently female, or do you end up having ones more typically expected of males? For instance, if you do masturbate, do you tend to have thoughts regarding being filled / taken, or do you still like to fantasize about doing the filling? I'm simply just fascinated by the complexity and capability of the mind, so opportunities like this pique my interest. These messages are extremely creepy to a then 15-year-old at the time. Being that horny on main is a little wild in my opinion, but what do I know? After that, he proceeded to send me a voice clip of him making relatively lewd noises and, well, doing exactly what he described in those Skype messages. He also inquired about my sexual orientation and gender identity, and went as far as to request clarification on what sort of mental images I mapped to, which was, in my opinion, very out of line and unsettling, because I'm literally an underage individual that he had just met at the time. That practically ended my association with him, and though I've had him on Skype until today, when I read glitchedpuppet's journal, I haven't spoke with him since then. The rest of this document is Melanie, PK, or glitchedpuppet, expressing their frustrations with Sean and summarizing their entire document at the same time, making a bit of a meal of it, as 3 pages probably could have been summed up in one, but I digress. Sean will respond with this on 2 separate occasions over Reddit. Hi, this is Sonic Mega, yes, the real one. The writer of the journal OP linked to is under investigation for child and bestiality, with screenshots and evidence included. They've gone as far as changing their name or online alias several times to avoid the backlash from their actions. As a performer / actor, I have always been open to doing requests for people, including not safe for work ones. I still do adult work here and there, in fact, but it is only with the prior permission or direct request from the recipient, and I would not send such audio to a known minor. I elaborated more on this individual and their claims here. Please stop trying to connect this person to me. I do not want to be associated with their ongoing harassment and behavior, and this is the only thing people continue to reference after all this as evidence of me being a quote-unquote predator, from an actual documented predator who, for all we know, just made a brand new account to post this. I do not appreciate it. Hey everyone, this is Sean. Hoping I can clear a few things since this screenshot is apparently making the rounds again, even though it was deleted since it seems. I realize this is just a he said she said situation, but hopefully including some actual supplementary links and background information will help my claims be reasonable and hopefully finally put a more permanent end to this frustrating slander. 1. The person in that screenshot was Melanie Herring, or Purplekelceon, or glitchedpuppet, and many other names, and she is most certainly not a minor. In fact, she's older than me. The only possible way this could be different is if I was knowingly given false information by her, or she later changed the story around in order to try and make her claims more believable, or just make the target bad guy look even worse. 2. I would never send unsolicited lewd material to someone, audio or otherwise, without getting a prior okay first. My career is too precious to me to risk it over something that stupid. The core issue is that Melanie's infamous for turning a complete 180 on people she previously liked the moment they are no longer on her good side, as well as asking her partners and fan base to do the same. And this includes taking anything she can use to write a narrative that helps her paint her as completely innocent. This would generally conclude the document, showing a degenerate side of the beloved voice actor and a side of harassment and general malintent towards one individual for a lack of purpose. The allegations would resurface a few times over the next few years, yet oddly with such damning allegations, Sean's career continued to thrive, garnering even larger roles and gigs after the initial allegations released in 2013. On July 1st, 2024, long after the release of the second episode of the digital Circus, user Arival, or Rena, released a thread that reads, "When I was 13, Sean Chiplock attended a 15-year-old trans boy. That person was my friend, but he left the internet, so the only person left to tell the story is me." Ignoring the lunacy of, "but he left the internet, so the only person left to tell the story is me," ironically later we'll see that this statement would prove to be untrue. This thread would retell the story of Sean's interactions with Casper, criticizing the response where he tried to imply the individual he sent it to was an adult and in fact Melanie themselves. Casper would back these allegations with a thread that reads, "I'm the Casper in these logs. I'm choosing to come forward to add credibility to these allegations and to say that I stand by the claims made in my original journal written in 2014. Sean Chiplock is a creep." This thread confirms the validity of the allegations, retelling their story and their experiences, stating how stressful it was, and denying Sean's attempt to add a private conversation to speak on the matter. These allegations resurfacing in this day and age made them seem lethal to Sean's career, with the rise of taking action on those who have committed wrongdoings is something that is much more prevalent now. However, what if I were to tell you, not everything is as it seems in this case. I have perpetuated and framed this video so far as an expose of Sean or a propulsion of the allegations regarding Sean. However, with that being said, this video is not that at all. While I think Sean is a degen and a coomer for sure, I don't think he's a and I also don't think there is any proof to back that up by any margin. You may be saying, well, you just showed proof, how can you say there isn't any? And while true they have evidence, it does not conclude that he is groomed as an individual. A claim of harassment at best, or just inappropriate odd behavior at worst, would be much more appropriate. Firstly, judging from the timestamps of the Skype chats, Sean and Casper were talking for an hour or so at longest, not including their fur affinity chats, which might add another hour or two onto that. Yet we will say an hour as that's the extent of their sexual conversation. Now the question is, can take effect over 1 hour? I'd like to believe no, however there are exceptions to this question. Sources have varying qualms on the time it takes for an individual to be CEOP Education claims that take place within a matter of minutes, yet also provides that as a spectrum from minutes to years. Yet sites like Coalition for Children make it out to be a multi-step process, one that could not be achieved within 3 hours frankly. Things like playing a role in the individual's life, slyly introducing content as something conceivably normal amongst people their age, and others that Sean frankly didn't do. But what about the first source, which claims it can take place within a matter of minutes? Well, this source doesn't directly state how this is possible, so I'm assuming they are referring to the concept of EPI. EPI is something I've done Slate research into, but it stands for Early Introduction. The process of introducing to a minor who beforehand hadn't seen or interacted with it, painting it in a light of something good and positive and as an appropriate subject to talk about with an adult, let alone for people their age. Sean had not EPI'd Casper. Sean was never informed, or could be informed, as to what the age of this individual actually was at the time. For one, they never directly stated their age to Sean in the logs. Their age was also not listed on their Fur Affinity account. Funnily enough, Fur Affinity is a 13+ website. However, Casper has been shown to have interacted and to have posted not safe for work content on Fur Affinity, which requires your account to be 18+. Although this post was made a year after their interaction, I still find it hard to believe that they would change their status on not safe for work just then and there, as they would still not be 18 years of age. Finally, and funnily enough, Casper themselves directly butts heads with this thread and these allegations in specific, despite saying they are adding credibility to the allegations when they originally released off Rena's account. Personally, I believe because of the fact that people actually started to question the allegations, made Casper change their opinion on the allegations and Rena as a whole. I do not believe that Sean groomed me. I do believe his messages towards me were inappropriate right off the jump and the interaction should have never happened. It was just one piece of a pattern I experienced during my time in the fandom, and it was not okay. Despite this, as previously mentioned, if Sean was to try and seek out your age before making any sexual advances, although a good idea, it would be quite difficult. Although I think a quick, "Hey, how old are you?" likely would have nipped this entire situation in the bud. Once more, I'll say it, had these allegations been perpetuated as harassment or irresponsibility, I think they would have leveraged a lot more respect and good grace. However, the irresponsibility of Rena to pass this off as grooming is ridiculous and has painted the allegations in a poor light. Is Sean a coomer, degenerate, and borderline harasser? I think so. Yet, is he a No. Since I've just offended Sean, I also want to go over the things I think Sean has done that can be criticized, just to make this video a little zigzag from criticizing the accused, to the accusers, to the accused, to the accusers again, as you'll see later on. Why? Well, because I hate my audience. Firstly, I want to go over Sean's continuous blunders over the years that people call responses. Had there not been so many flaws in the perpetuation and propulsion of these allegations, Sean's career would have arguably been over at this point, just judging from responses alone. The first one is where they speak about Melanie, or Glitched Puppet, and the second one would be this. They were neither underage nor against it, as I explained in my main reply. They do, however, regularly change info about their conversations to try and villainize people they see as enemies, even if they were once friends with those same people. These are two of many of Sean's awful responses to the situation entirely, which have been mostly disregarded by everyone. Despite this, if they were actually to be relevant, it would show many inconsistencies. Sean literally presumes that the logs were between them and PK or Melanie, and tries to defend themselves based on the fact that Melanie is over the age of 18. I also want to point out that his disregard for checking ages of the individuals he interacts with, in jest yet nature, is actually a slight pattern of behavior, or something that's at least happened more than once. This message could be taken as an inappropriate joke, or as a message directed at a 16-year-old. Said 16-year-old alleges that they had their age in their bio, however, there is no proof to substantiate this claim at this time. There is an instance of Sean harassing a minor over Twitter, however, it is quite wishy-washy when it comes to this claim. Sean did respond to this user with a joke and allegedly sent fans to harass them, despite getting ratioed pretty badly. Unless in private Sean was inciting users to harass this individual, the public was not implicated in this harassment campaign, as most who came across the reply denounced it. Despite the vast amount of allegations levied towards Sean, the accusers don't have a very squeaky clean record themselves. Firstly, the individual who created the initial document which inspired Casper to come out with their experience in the first place, PK, also known as glitchedpuppet, Glip, and for the sake of convenience, Melanie, has had an extensive history over platforms like DeviantArt and Tumblr. She made her first mark on DeviantArt being the admin of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers, running this group with their husband Maro and her boyfriend Evie, along with others. This group went from a safe-for-work roleplay group to a cesspit of deviance and degeneracy. They would soon move on to a later project by the name of Floraverse, one that has a not safe for work counterpart called Forbidden Flora. Floraverse would be a major failure, as the overarching plot was so confusing and ridiculous that nobody could actually make sense of it. this becoming worse as the interjection of an interactive medium was introduced, with users expressing their confusion. Melanie shifted more and more of their attention over to Tumblr after the failure of Floriverse, where she now identifies as non-binary and expresses a vast hatred for males. Melanie has also adopted a persona as a sexual educator. No, not for adults only. Help the minors figure out their sexual identity with your alternate universe of Floriverse that contains a great plan. I noticed you were giving advice to minors, and is it wrong that I find that kind of problematic? I mean, usually it's their teachers or parents' job to talk about these things, not a random person on the internet, even if they have good intentions. Sorry if I come off as rude, but it's just an observation that kinda irked me. If they feel the need to come to a random person instead of their teacher or parent, then I'm not gonna stop them. What would you prefer? They receive nothing instead? When I answer the questions from people who say they are underage, I take into account how I felt being during their age, and I take into account experience I have now. Be irked all you want, but don't do it at me or them. Be irked at the teachers or parents for making these kids feel like they don't have anyone else to turn to. After this point is when Melanie had changed their online persona to glitchedpuppet or glip. They continued to publish bestiality and other comics containing underage characters. Melanie would fail at tagging their not safe for work content properly, leading to those who are not of age to see their material. This would be further proven in a Discord message that reads, "My legacy will be 13-year-olds secretly reading Forbidden Flora and realizing they're gay and or trans." They then argue that their not safe for work content isn't exploitative due to it being a guide for minors to find and explore their gender identity. There is an even funnier debate between the polyamorous trio regarding misgendering, even when unintentional, is a form of violence. Mental violence is equally important to address, but they're both violence and harm causing. It's serious, yeah. I get there can be mental forms of violence, but even for that context, I'd feel it has to be more intentionally malevolent to be violence. Again, your feelings are irrelevant, lol. Unintentionally misgendering someone I don't see as violence. Regardless of the intent, it still causes damage. Can you guys not? There are obviously differing opinions here that aren't going to change. Your feelings don't matter. It's violence. Now, we approach much more serious allegations that Marl, Melanie's husband, is a file and a file, a sexually active one at that. In 2018, logs were leaked between Marl and a user named Big Fluffed, age 16 at the time. Unlike Sean's group allegations, these had much more substance and occurred over a long-lasting period of time. These messages contain Marl trying to get BF to have a threesome with him and his dog, references of pictures, wanting to introduce BF to a prostitute friend in case that they wanted an escort gig, arranging real-life meetups, speaking of real-life meetups, and wanting them to come back to their household so that they could have sex. You know, if you ever actually wanted to make and sell stuff, I would definitely help. PK and I are thinking of it, as it is a whole lot of money. Hell yes it is, I would like that a lot. I'm still underage and shit though, so I wouldn't want to get you in trouble. Age of consent is 16 here. I couldn't distribute anything of you until you hit 18. You know, if you still like dogs and stuff, you could do a thing with 2 or 3 of them. I have 2 friends now, both with trained ones. How do you make so many dog friends, XD? Well, you meet a lot of people that are like-minded once you have a dog and are into that. But yeah, what do you think? That would be awesome. And I could sell something like that for at least 2,000. That's on the low end too. That would be awesome, but I don't want to get into legal issues like ever, oh my god. Alright, well you could always help film it. That's mostly how I feel about it, like I'd f dogs and I'd get vids taken, but I don't want to get in trouble. I completely understand. The other girl I know is going to be wearing a wig and getting one of those fake tattoos that wash off. Does that work? Absolutely. Mask, wig, or hair dye, fake tattoo, no one will ever know it's you. The girl I filmed with the Great Dane did that, I didn't even recognize her when I watched the video. I'll think about it, and I'd get a cut, right? Dude, do you even have to ask? My legs are also manly. I can lift over 450 pounds with them. Say 450 because that's what the machine maxed out at. But are you like 16? He has beaten me there. Yes, his body is impressively muscular for his age. Well, I am impressively tall and tranquil for my age. Let's do it. Someone's confident tonight. Yeah, I figured why not. Better than not being that. I like you a lot as a person, and I'm attracted to you to the point where I'd totally do you if you wanted, so I'm just gonna go with that as my stance from now on. You're A+, but I'm playing my game, and I am in no mood for love, so sorry. Ha. I will wait as long as I have to. Ever since you use your age being like a forbidden kind of thing, made it way harder for me to imagine actually doing anything with you, like taboo stuff. Live with the shame and regret of inaction. In my mind, I'm a huge and would just jump on that, but in real life I'm like, looks at crotch, faints. I mean, that's really how it is for me. I'm really shy about any of that. You saw how I reacted when I realized you saw my dick. even if it was a medical picture. Ha ha ha, true. In my fantasy world, I just creep up on you while you were doing buttons and just kind of fill you up until you actually did just jump on my dick. But that's a fantasy world. It's nice to think about. See, like, in my head, that's hot. In real life, who knows? That might be awkward for both of us, XD. Basically, I'm just worried that if I were to even attempt something, you'd feel uncomfortable and pressured. One of my friends is an escort. It's kind of a sweet gig. She makes about $160 to $240 a day. I honestly would love giving acts for money. That's like, man, I enjoy doing it for people. Well, if you want, I can introduce her to you someday. She has 1 to 2 clients over every day. Is she super cool? Yeah, she is actually. She's super nice and open. That's so cool. Maybe I would like to meet her. I haven't done anything with her because I'm not into her like that. She's this curvy Indian girl. PK would do it too. How do you even like set wages for that? She charges $120 for an hour for normal. She says it only usually lasts 10 to 20 minutes. Repeat clients, if they only have like 80, she'll charge $80 for a quick session. Anything weird like bondage or overnight stays jumps the price up to $240 an hour. She did an overnight last week and got $860 out of it. I'll weigh them in a bit and let you know, but yeah, more than 100 for sure. Sweet. Maybe next time I can just be and then Mel will walk into me being fair trade, XD. I'm down with that. And yeah, Mel was just startled. Dude, that was awesome. She didn't care you saw her. Yeah, I didn't care either. I was just not expecting and then bam, there they were. I mean, I'd have been too. Your house was damn hot. She usually is, so you just startled her, so she just wore a shirt. Does everyone go around there or just her? Just her. Because man, if I lived in my own house, I probably would be too. I do it if Mel's the only one around. Sweet deal, man. And I didn't know how you wanted to throw them away. I left them on the couch. Only weekends usually. But like I said, only if Mel is here for Eevee, and Mel will be at SAC Anime next weekend. So, if you want to actually do anything unbutton-like, this weekend would be cool. Sounds like it. I'll see what my schedule is like. I'll have gotten my new toy in too if you like rubber dog d***s. This is the one I'm getting. Nice. What size? Large. It was on sale for 50% off, so I snagged it. Nice. Honestly, like, I'm scared because I'm small, and I have no clue what I can take. Well, if you want to find out, I mean, besides, it's not like I would ignore you entirely and just be like, must fit at all. My fascination is just really seeing girls even attempt to use my toys. It seems Sin City was made for Marl. Marl would admit to these logs being true not long after they leaked. Although, this would be only confirmation through a friend. When are these logs from exactly? Around 2012 to 2013, but that doesn't excuse anything here. Hey, I just talked to Marl. He wanted me to relay this message. I don't know who that person is. I won't ever give out their identity no matter what they choose to do, but if they do want to talk about it, for their therapy or for any other reason, I will gladly do so. I never meant to cause them any harm, and I never approach conversations with any malintent. But intent isn't always important, it's what actually counts, and I'm sorry for causing them grief. If they want a direct apology from me, I'll give it. After this same individual walks back this statement with, you guessed it, the time-old excuse that the logs must be fake because it came from Kiwi Farms. Marl would like to know what you want from him then. I don't want anything. I want people to be aware of what he's done. It's not excusable, and chances are Glip and Eevee know as well. Okay, well, this doesn't make very much sense. The dates don't add up, the writing doesn't sound like Marl, and the logs look faked. It looks like it was written in Notepad. It's in Gmail chat. How did the dates not add up? The posts are from different time periods because that's how I received them. Marl sounds different because this was a few years back. For context, all the harassment is coming from a website dedicated to harassing acceptable targets, like queer people, women, disabled folks, etc. Circling back to Melanie, 2 days after the logs were leaked, they made an announcement that 1, the logs were faked, and 2, they were to leave the internet forever, followed up by them locking their Twitter account. Eevee, their boyfriend, believes that the logs were edited, yet refuses to provide any evidence to this claim. The three would later flee to Vegas, going to live with Marl's parents after Melanie and Eevee became active once again. In July of the same year, Melanie, after months of inactivity, announces that they have divorced Marl. Melanie then posted Marl's alleged apology, in which he confesses to being his in fantasy, yet says the logs were edited to make him appear worse than he truly is. However, a leak showed that Melanie was fully aware of the intercourse that Marl was having with, well, not humans. Despite the evidence and confessions, Melanie continued to perpetuate the narrative that BF and others involved in the allegations were liars, and stated that Melanie themselves were in fact the only true victim of Marl. Ironically, she states that he was the only predator under their roof, yet refrained from contacting the authorities. There are also more inconsistencies, however, I think you get the gist. Eevee, their partner at the time, has also committed acts worth note. Defending the possession of defending desk, and that's just 2 of many. There's plenty more in regards to this user, their story regarding Marl constantly changing, a 116-page document where they apologize and admit that Marl forced them into soliciting illicit pictures from a minor, and plenty other tales that could honestly be suitable for a video in itself. Melanie would change their name to Ash, and the rest would be history. What I personally believe is the craziest part of the situation is the fact everything really does come full circle. Believe it or not, every accuser and accusee are much more connected than you may be inclined to believe at this point, and in a lot of cases, for the wrong reasons. In the early hours of March 11, 2023, our most recent perpetrator of the grooming allegations that have plagued Sean Chiplock, Rena, would release a zine, a magazine-like depiction with a twist, typically for non-profit, and a way for those to speak their piece and tell a story, often self-published passion projects or expressions, called Short Straw, which details their experience with larger figures from the Floorverse community. These being detailed as the artist, the predator, and the cult/inner circle. If you haven't pieced it together already, the artist is none other than Ash or Melanie themselves. The predator is an individual by the name of Waz. This zine accuses Ash of attempting to traffic Rena. They accuse Waz of abusing them by prying into their traumas and generally abusing them. This individual was commissioned by Ash to make a fetish piece. Waz used Rena's story of childhood abuse and subsequently their CSA experience for Ash's porn site. Forbidden Flora at that. As for the cult and mods who ran the server, Rena digresses that the only way to garner respect and power in this server was to partake in spiritual roleplay ceremonies, the likes of which could last up to a day long. They also mention a religion that was cultivated in this inner circle, one that went unnamed yet had a few distinct clauses. No one is beyond salvation. No matter how much you fucked up, you can become a good person. Anyone bad enough in your life can and will be compared to the artist. Dreams and thoughts have the power to impact reality, so you better not think anything bad. Violence is abhorrent unless the artist is the one purveying it. Quit your job and all aspirations and become full-time to help develop the artist's artwork. Rena also says that even when the escaped attempt from their household to Ash's failed, Ash still tried to coerce them into moving in, promising a minimum wage job in exchange for them living at Ash's house. When Ash figured out about the entire dilemma regarding Waz's utilization of Rena's traumatic CSA experience as a VN on Ash's website, they announced attempting to rehabilitate Waz. Many people actually excused Waz for their mental illnesses. Ironically, after Rena left Ash's circle in 2022, Waz was still an active moderator, hence why their letter of resignation, for lack of a better term, in which they mentioned what Waz did to them, was never publicized by Ash, as it would ruin their and Waz's credibility. One may be asking, Rena was 19 at this time, what made them any more vulnerable in comparison to any other 19-year-old, especially when it came to Ash's attempt to leave home and even the abuse from Waz. To that I have to say, Rena was in a particularly poor mental headspace at the time that Ash attempted to help them escape their home, as they were in an argument at the time with their mother. To those who say that's still not enough of a good reason, mind you, Rena had known and subsequently trusted Ash since they were 12 years old, a friend of 7 years, those 7 years being arguably the most developmental years of a human being's lifespan, aside from infancy and early childhood, is someone frankly you would trust in a situation such as this. And this is really a cause and effect situation, as the trauma endured from this night played a key role in their vulnerability when being contacted by Waz, as everyone they were friends with had cut them off at this point, and they were not only alone, yet traumatized. Ash would respond to this in a Twitter thread attempting to dispel the allegations of not only trafficking, but also to absolve Waz of any illicit accusations thrown their way. Firstly, they claim that Rena is blatantly lying. They try to disprove the fact that Rena claims they never actually wanted to leave their household with logs. However, if you actually read the zine, they never actually state or even imply that they didn't want to leave. The closest to this being a statement of, against my better judgment. However, I think it's literally against everyone's better judgment to not leave your household and go to a person you've never met before on the internet's house as a way of saving you from living conditions. To claim that this is not wanting to leave is a straw man and only serves the purpose of you trying to discredit Rena and make yourself look better. Ash also claims lots of things were left out of the narrative. Firstly, that Rena had been getting debated by their mother. As to how this helps your case of wanting some random stranger on the internet you knew since they were 12 to come and live at your place, I'm not really sure. Ash also says that they were going to have Rena start paying rent after 6 months had they wanted to stay there past that mark. Again, this doesn't really help your narrative. They then conclude by saying, I wish they had just told me they wanted to stay with their abusive mother. Hey, have you ever considered that maybe living with you is not the only option to save them from their abusive living conditions? Just a thought though. Mind you, Waz was still a moderator on their Discord and a higher up in Ash's inner circle. Ash didn't even bother to pull damage control after the Zion was posted. Ash would follow up, posting more logs where Rena states they had gotten kicked out and were out in the cold in nothing but pajamas. Ash also claims that one of the individuals that helped make Rena's Zine was actually one of the people who offered to come and did go to Rena's house. However, I'd like to point out that this message only contains an offer to drive, not an offer to house this individual, so their intentions after picking up Rena are pretty unclear. However, something of note that I'd like to point out with these DMs is that Rena never requested to live with any of these individuals, and frankly in our day and age there are much better options to help an individual like this instead of trying to pull off a Liam Neeson take-in operation. Contacting authorities or domestic/familial abuse hotlines and organizations likely would have been not only more effective but also way less creepy. I mean, can we really disregard the fact that this individual has had a minor that was being groomed by their then husband at the time over to their house in Vegas, where they also allegedly stated that they don't care about the individual's age? Why is this individual the one housing a person they think is an abuse victim, someone who would be extremely vulnerable like that of a child? Ash concludes that Rena's at the time then partner was the real predator. As for Ray, the water of their situation has been muddied a lot, but I don't think it takes a single ounce of credibility away from this one. I mean, in the same sentence, Ash says they don't think Waz is a predator, so... Despite this, Waz openly admits to being a problem and needing literal therapy. If they weren't a predator, why would they go to therapy in a situation where they were grooming someone? Waz used someone's traumatic experience as material. Is that not predatory? Is being the only light of hope and companionship to someone who has essentially lost all they've had to then push your fetishes and weird rhetoric onto them not predatory? Ash had blurred the lines and poisoned the well so significantly that the water actually turned purple. Oh, and by the way, there are and I mean so many allegations towards Ash that I haven't covered. Like the fact that they admitted their cat had oral with them, and the fact that they knew Marl was a active zoo prior to cutting things off with them. These being two of many allegations harbored on a Tumblr post and a over 1800 page Kiwi Farms thread that spans over a decade. To conclude, I'd like to generalize all I've covered. The user PK, glitchedpuppet, Glip, Melanie, and Ash has tainted communities they've ran with not safe for work imagery, has failed massively at any attempted of web storylines and pieces of media, acted as a sexual identity guru, allowing and even welcoming minors to view their not safe for work content. Their husband was a self-admitted group. Ash knew this long before considering divorce and allegedly even participated in these activities himself, harassed and discredited victims of Marl to only walk it back in an oopsie guys, I was wrong, only to have their partner Evie also be a degenerate. Finally, they have coerced a 19-year-old freshly off an abusive household and traumatizing situation to live with them, despite having an awful history of minors coming to their house, even if for the purpose of their then spouse at the time. They not only condoned but offered to rehabilitate their and tried to hide the allegations from hitting the public sphere to save face. And finally, after the weight of your bold-faced lies crumble down upon you, you go on podcasts and interact with people that made videos on you to continue to change the narrative. Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this has only been summarized detailing of events that only leads up to April of 2023. Yes, almost a year and a half of new information, scandals, and documents are still up for grabs. As for the newer information, it has literally been brain rotting trying to put it all together from the research at hand. You may think that responding to all controversies would make for an organized individual that frankly has it all figured out, but having to constantly release bibles of text to respond to every controversy you're in not only makes you look bad because you need that much to defend yourself with, but it's difficult for normal, everyday people to keep up with the constant cycle. Frankly, I've reached about 1700 pages in the Kiwi Farms thread worth of content, mind you with a ton, and I mean a ton, of omitted controversies, scandals, responses, and any other online interaction of Ash. In all honesty, this video started as a Sean Chiplock video, but has devolved and deviated into something strange that I frankly can't comprehend and wrap my small little TikTok attention span brain around. In all seriousness, I think the most interesting piece of this entire decade of internet presence from all the users mentioned is how connected they are on different levels. Rena and Casper were friends at one point. Casper was a victim of Sean's harassment and inappropriate DJ and Coomer behavior. Ash was a victim of Sean's quote-unquote harassment campaigns and generally had a petty outing with Sean that was only seen as virtuous due to the fact that Casper decided to come out. Rena was, at least partially, a victim of Ash, or at least the individuals they held in close proximity to them. Finally, Sean is a victim of perpetuating allegations that are radicalized each and every time they are revamped and demonstrated for the public to see, especially those of Rena. Despite this, with the things endured regarding Ash, I frankly wouldn't be surprised if they jumped the gun on calling Sean a due to the wish of not wanting another possible abuser to get off scot-free or another victim without justice served, just like themselves. I hate to fence sit here, Well, no, I actually love it. Yet arguably 3 of the 4 previously mentioned have all done bad things, lacked good judgment, are degenerates, really just pick your poison. With that being said, however, the severity of their actions are incomparable to the next person in line. Rena pushing an incorrect narrative about Sean is bad, yet I don't think it is at all worse than Sean's poor usage of a platform and Coomer, degenerate, borderline sexual harasser behavior. And finally, with all that's been said about Ash, well, you know the rest. As for me, I've been salty. Remember, reality's an illusion, the universe is hologram. Bye, go bye!
Baby, cut me down.